It's Locked On NBA Game Night. I'm Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. Coming up, the Celtics hand the Cavaliers their first loss of the season. What did we learn about both teams in tonight's big game? Plus, LaMelo Ball gets benched, Russell Westbrook sets a record, and Dalton Knecht lights up the Jazz.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. You heard the lady. Every game, every night in 30 minutes. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. However, you might be tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen every day. Today's episode sponsored by Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We'll talk about a potential turnaround for Jamal Murray, potential trouble in Charlotte and New Orleans. But let's start, Tony, with tonight's marquee matchup. The Celtics handed the Cavaliers their first loss of the season. They ended the Cavaliers' 15-game win streak to open the season. The Celtics led by as many as 21 points in this one. They got up to there right around the beginning of the third quarter, and it looked like this was sort of headed towards Knicks-Celtics opening night territory. But the Cavs battled back. Credit to them. They made it a game. It just wasn't enough in the end. And I thought the Celtics got the Cavs to play into their game long enough to get this win before the Cavs basically settled down and got into more of what that is that they wanted to do. But if you're Cleveland, I think there's a lot to learn from this game. You don't feel bad necessarily, but I think you also feel like you probably left a lot on the table. But there's also, like I said, a lot to learn ahead of the next matchup when these two teams play. But how did you think they stacked up against the Celtics?
I was a little bummed that they were missing three very important wing-ish players on top of already not having Strusseler, to not have Dean Wade and Isaac Okoro and Karis LeVert was really stacked against them. Their bench played very well, though, so I don't think that's why they lost. I'm actually kind of bummed, West, because all season Darius Garland has been so good. Right? Like we talked about it on this podcast. And this is his big national stage game to like prove it to everybody against a really big opponent. And like I would say every other Cavs player that played very well or up to expectations or did enough for the Cavs to win, right? Mm-hmm. And then he was 3 for 21. And like I'll give Kenny Atkinson credit. He trusted him. He played him down the stretch of the game, but he did not have it. He could not hit anything tonight. He missed every three he took. That was really what sunk them because yes, their second quarter was terrible. The Celtics had just long enough, like you said, moments where it was like they look unbeatable. The Cavs were better the rest of the game. And if they had just like even a bad Darius Garland night, they win. And that was really the story of the game to me, is how off he was on a night where they needed him to just be okay. They just didn't get it.
Yeah, they were fortunate that Craig Porter Jr. came in with a cameo and went 3 for 3 from 3-point range. Jordan Yang hit a big one late in the game. Sam Merrill hit a couple of big ones in the second half too, and that kind of got them going. But like I said, I thought, to me, Cleveland got like too comfortable with playing into Boston's game where, you know, the Celtics have the formula, right? That you're gonna hit your twos, but we're gonna make enough threes where we're gonna win the math problem at the end of this thing. And it just felt like Cleveland was playing catch up when they didn't have to. It was too early in the game, but they're saying, oh, they're taking all these threes. We have to take all these threes. And to me, it reminded me of sort of like peak Golden State Warriors where they would just get everybody into to play their pace, and you just can't out Warriors the Warriors. And right now you can't really out Celtics the Celtics. And I thought the Cavs were trying to do that, where in the second half, I felt like they got back to their ball movement. They got back to trying to get stuff in the paint, and it worked. They ended up outscoring Boston by 24 points in the paint. Now, Boston outscored them by 36 points from beyond the arc. But, you know, I did think that the Cavs played a little bit better at the end. Let's hear more from our Locked On Cavs host.
Danny Cunningham here at TD Garden in Boston after the Cavaliers dropped their first game of the season. Their 15-game winning streak snapped at the hands of the Boston Celtics by a score of 120 to 117 in NBA Cup action tonight here in Boston. The Cavs, I thought, had their worst first quarter of the season. They only scored 20 points. Offensively, they looked stuck in mud. They said they were chasing isolations. They were hunting mismatches a little bit too much. They weren't playing Cleveland Cavaliers basketball that we've seen from them throughout the first 15 games of the season. Now, after halftime, thought they got back to playing their style. They put up 40 points in the third quarter. Might have been their best third quarter of the season, but it wasn't enough. Again, a team shot the three-pointer really, really well against the Cavs. I do wonder if that is just more than bad luck at this point. Boston's a great three-point shooting team. They shoot a lot of them, but that was the biggest difference in this game. The Cavs also, I thought, missed some easier looks at the rim, but they're back at it tomorrow. They will look to start a new winning streak at home against the New Orleans Pelicans.
So we've got that. From Locked On Cavaliers. I thought this was also a statement win for the Boston Celtics, if they even needed one. They're the reigning champs. I don't know that they necessarily needed
I know they're good now.
yeah, they seem pretty good. Let's hear from John Corrales from Locked On Celtics with what this meant for the Celtics.
Here at the TD Garden, the Boston Celtics get the win over the Cleveland Cavaliers, breaking their 15-game winning streak to start the season. The Celtics did it with defense and rebounding, something that had been eluding them over the course of the last few games. Jason Tatum was awesome, a few assists shy of a triple-double. Jaylen Brown, a tougher offensive night until the end when he started to close the door on the Cavs, but a really good defensive night, picking up Donovan Mitchell full court. Al Horford stands out as the star of the game, especially in the fourth quarter where he had 2 blocks with about 4.5 minutes to go. The Cavs had cut the lead down to 5. He had 2 blocks, 2 stops, and Derek White had a three-pointer in the middle of that to give the Celtics an 8-point lead. And more importantly, the Cavs didn't score for about a minute and a half, and that really cut their chances of coming back. The Celtics had a 21-point lead. I didn't like the energy there. They started to kind of slow down and mess around a little bit too much. The Cavs are very good. They took full advantage of that and almost came all the way back. But Jason Tatum hit some big shots. Derek White hit some huge shots. Al Horford's defense. The Celtics showed that they're still the class of the East, but I wouldn't be surprised if they see the Cavs some point down the line. Now the Celtics go to the White House.
Yeah, nobody cares about your White House visit, John.
So what are we doing, Wes? We missed the memo. We're at our houses, not the TD Garden like everybody else.
John looked like he was in Brad Stevens' office there. I don't know what part of TD Garden he found. Like, Danny's over there on the court. Look, he mentioned there that the Celtics still the class of the East. I don't know that anybody didn't really think that, the 15-game win streak to start the season for Cleveland notwithstanding, but having watched just one game, and obviously, a lot of Cavs and a lot of Celtics over the course of the season, Tony, what do you think the gap is between these two teams?
Yeah, it's really interesting because on one hand, I kind of think both teams could walk away being like, dang, we could have played better, right? Like the Celtics were up too late in the first quarter, and then they were up 21 really early in the third quarter. So for like 15 minutes, they were like incredible, right? And it felt like they made every 3 in the second quarter. They were really clicking. That's the team that everybody saw opening night that was like, this is going to ruin basketball, which was really stupid. But anyway, that was the thing people said. Like when they're playing like that, they look amazing. And so they're probably thinking, man, we only played good for 15 minutes and we just beat an undefeated Cavs team, right? Like that was great. We could get more from Jaylen. We didn't even have Porzingis. On the other side, the Cavs were like, hey, we were missing all the guys I said earlier, and one of our best players was not very good. And we were down 3. Like, yeah, we had to come back like crazy. And like Danny said, we stunk to start the game, but we were really close without playing the best we've played all year, right? So I kind of think both teams are probably not thrilled with how they played. And I think that kind of favors the team that just won the championship and has been there, done that. So with no, like, I don't want to take anything from the Cavs. Like they played a pretty good game, especially in that second half when they got it clicking. Mobley looked great, right? But I think the Celtics they shot a bajillion% from 3, but they've got to be happy that they pretty much only played well to me, like really well to me for about 15 minutes, and that was enough to win.
That's the thing that separates the Celtics from everybody else, is that their margin for error is so wide because they don't have to play a perfect game, but everybody on that team is naturally a good defender. They've got length, they've got size, and everybody's a good shooter. And if Jaylen Brown doesn't really have it going for a couple quarters, well, then Derek White does, and vice versa. And it just and Jason Tatum just went on a tear in that first half. Also made his first 4 3-pointers. Excuse me, but I think the gap is wide enough that it's significant. That the Celtics to me were always the team to beat. You can look at any number of power rankings and going into this game, and they could have Cleveland number 1 just because of the fact that they were undefeated. But I don't think anybody seriously thought that the Cavs were just a flat out better team than the Boston Celtics. That said, the Celtics kind of were sleepwalking in a couple of games coming into this one. Defensively, they've really kind of let go of the rope there. But watching those Celtics games, I didn't think there was a structural problem. Of course, they were dealing with some injuries, guys in and out of the lineup, but I just thought they didn't really care. Like, they were just like, yeah, this is November. It's fine. We don't really care. And I thought they actually did get up for this one, and they were pretty open about it at the in their press conference after the game. Like, yep, they were undefeated. We wanted to knock them off. And that's what it takes. And if you're the defending champ and you kind of rolled through the East last year, you just got to kind of pick your spots to get up, and they got up for this one. But if you're Cleveland, I think you can walk away with a lot of notes, but also a little bit of proof of concept of, yeah, you know what? In that second half, we were able to kind of get more toward our game. And I bet the next time these teams play, that's going to be the thing that the Cavs stress going into it is we got to play our game, and we know that we can do it despite the matchup.
Two more things. Let me get two more quick ones in. One, I would like to be as good at anything at age 38 as Al Horford was tonight. I think John nailed it. He was really, really good, and he played 31 and a half minutes at age 38. Are you kidding me? That was great. You can tell us here Celtics took it. They played it, guys. The NBA Cup, baby. We love the NBA Cup. And two, we'll see if this is a thing, because I thought he played okay. Jared Allen does not close. George Niang closing for the Cavs in this one. Niang played a good game, but I thought, that's pretty interesting. Jared Allen's pretty good. I guess he was kind of ineffective in this game, and the bench was much better. The spacing matters more against the Celtics. That stood out to me as well. Anyway,
definitely worth bookmarking that. Cavs with the backdoor cover on this one. In the NBA Cup, point differential matters too. They kind of chewed into Boston's point differential on this one. We'll see if that matters also going forward. Moving on to the Western Conference, can the Pelicans turn their season around, or should they go the other way? Start planning for next season. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more coming up on Locked On NBA Game Night. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks again for making Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Your first listen. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's go to Dallas, where the Mavericks rolled over the Pelicans 132-91. That's a lot of points. Luka Doncic, 26 points in 29 minutes. Klay Thompson made 5 of his 9 three-pointers. 7 different Mavericks scored in double figures. Meanwhile, the injured Pelicans continue to stumble. They've lost 9 of their last 10 games. This one might be the worst of the season. And, Tony, they play the 15-1 Cavs on Wednesday night, so it doesn't look like it's going to get better anytime soon. Here's Jake Madison from Locked On Pelicans with more on the state of the Pelicans.
Pelicans lose 91-132 to the Dallas Mavericks. You saw a stark difference between these two teams in a variety of different ways. The Mavs had Brandon Ingram in jail pretty much all night long. Doubled anytime he touched the ball. It was a near miracle. He scored 17 points on 15 shots. Not that that's good. And when you have injuries to basically everyone else, yeah, that's a smart strategy because there's no one else to beat you. Contrast it to the Mavericks here, who anytime Luka or Kyrie touched the ball, there were other threats out there on the court, making it difficult for the Pelicans to defend him. This is just how it's going to go for New Orleans until they get healthy. It's really as simple as that. I don't have much else for you after this long.
How could you, man? Like, they've got none of their players out there. And so, yeah, maybe it gets better when they're healthy, but it doesn't feel like they're ever healthy. It never feels like they're ever healthy at the right time for a sustained amount of time, Tony, even going back the last couple of seasons. So they're 4-11 at the time of us, recording this. They're already 4 games back of the 10th seed Sacramento Kings. This hole just keeps getting deeper and deeper. My question to you, is there any hope of getting out of it?
Yeah, I mean, the DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Jose Alvarado, Jordan Hawkins, Zion Williamson, that's like the 4th seed in the East right now. And they're missing all of that at the same time. Like, that already is hard to overcome. And I think Jake nailed it. Like how much can Brandon Ingram do when he's the only guy you have to cover, right? As good as some of their players are, at various role player things. They're good at those things, and they're surrounded by a lot of the names I just said that aren't playing right now, right? So Trey Murphy goes 5 for 13. Brandon Boston goes 4 for 11. And it's just hard for them to come up with points. Scored 91. They shot under 40%. That's what it's going to be like for them for a lot of the year. The other issue is, hypothetically, let's pretend that their hope, and this is probably what it should be, is that they will climb out of this, right? That the players will get back and they'll get better. Well, they lost their new guard on opening night. Like, they have no real established chemistry with DeJounte Murray at this stage. And, like, you don't need that when Zion's as good as he is at times, but it certainly is a thing that matters. So it's not like they'll just hit the ground running the second everybody's healthy. So they're running out of time very quickly. It feels like every time they win, it's like, oh, thank God Brandon Boston was good. It's like someone has a game like that. So it's really, really tricky for them, and it's going to be hard to get out of it. But this has been the reality, like you said, for years. Just a lot of injury-prone guys.
It's just sort of their team. It's just the way they're built. It's the way they're constructed. And unfortunately, the injury bug bit them really bad this year. And sometimes, you just lose seasons to injuries. It happens. There's always at least one team every NBA season that it's a season that never really gets started because they're so hurt. And there's actually a couple of teams that are like that this year. But New Orleans is probably at the top of that list. And they're expensive. They're kind of stuck with some of their bigger contracts that they have. Like, who's trading for CJ McCollum? Who's trading for DeJounte Murray? Who's trading for Zion even at this stage with all the question marks around all of those guys? So it's not ideal. And, I kind of teased it, like, should they go the other way? And I'm not even sure what that would look like. You start trading these things for pennies. Like, what's even the point? The Pelicans have draft picks. They've got a bunch of stuff. Like, nobody's trading for Brandon Ingram. I mean, maybe now he's playing kind of well, but like they kind of need him because nobody else is out there. So all the fit problems with Brandon Ingram have kind of washed away because all the guys he doesn't fit with are stuck on the bench in street clothes. So it's tough. Meanwhile, the Mavericks have won 3 in a row as they bounce back from last week's dramatic loss in Golden State. Here's Nick Angstadt from Locked On Mavericks with more on the Mavericks.
Call that Pelicans team an NBA team at this point. They're missing so many guys, but Mavs will get a win. They'll take a win. They'll take a huge win in the NBA Cup to help their point differential. They'll absolutely take that one. Luka Doncic returns from his 1-game absence. Looks pretty good. Didn't have to play a ton of high-impact minutes. His defense actually looks pretty good to me. He did get his 4th tech of the season, though, which means that he is now tied for leading the league, and he's on pace to get suspended by the 56th game of the season. I want to talk about Klay Thompson, though. 5 of 9 from 3, his second-best shooting game as a Dallas Maverick. And you can tell at the beginning of that second half, they wanted to go to Klay Thompson early. They wanted to get him some shots. They wanted to get him in rhythm. And the more that they can get that, the more that they can get Klay some good shots in the offense and all that is going to help the Mavs going forward. So it's good to see Klay Thompson getting going. Good win for the Mavericks against, I guess, an NBA team.
So there's the Mavericks part of it. Let's go to Memphis really quick, where the Nuggets beat the Grizzlies 122-110. No Nikola Jokic or John Morant in this one, but Denver led by as many as 25 points before the Grizzlies climbed back in this thing, thanks to 28 points from Santi Aldama. But the Nuggets held on. Jamal Murray finally had a good game after some rough outings from without Nikola Jokic. He finished with 27 points on 50% shooting and 6 assists. Tony, like I said, it's been a little bit rough for Jamal Murray. Do you think that this could be a turning point for him?
Yeah, then they've needed him to be much better with Jokic out. They almost had a winless road trip after, obviously, Jokic has been the best player in the league this year. So, yes, he was much better, much needed, hit some threes, which was important too. I mean, if he looks like, for years, everybody said, like, oh, this will be the year where Murray's finally an all-star for the first time. And I just don't think it'll ever happen, which does not mean he's not a good player. He's a very good player. But the fact that he has that kind of level in him is what the Nuggets need right now with Jokic out. So any game they win without him is huge, especially against a team that will have a good record and could be tough even if Morant's out. So it's just so critical to their season that this happened. And Porter Jr. too. Like, they're 2 guys who are paid to be guys, stepping up and giving you 51 on the road on a tough night without Jokic is what they need, and they got it tonight. Can I tell you a Nuggets play that I loved?
Yeah.
Jaren Jackson Jr. driving in from the left wing. Who else steps up to stop him but DeAndre Jordan? Getting rotation minutes tonight with Jokic out. But wait, this 2015 play gets better. Here comes Russell Westbrook racing ahead in transition, and he scoops the ball to DeAndre Jordan, who dunked it. Russell Westbrook and DeAndre Jordan linking up for highlights. What year is it, Wes? I couldn't believe it. It was fantastic. Russ was awesome.
He was. And quick note on Russell Westbrook, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 14 assists in this game. He becomes the first player in NBA history to record 200 triple-doubles. That's pretty cool for him. He gets the air horn for that one. Back to Murray, though, and Michael Porter Jr., to your point, but really Murray is so important. He is not the straw that stirs the drink, but like he's the orange in the old fashioned. It's like, yeah, you kind of need that too to make it all work. And I actually think that this period of time with Nikola Jokic not in the lineup could be really helpful for him, because it's just so easy when, you know, my shot's not falling. Let me do the right thing and just and get Jokic the ball, which is the right thing, and that leads to wins. But I like this idea of the stress test, the throwing him into the fire and saying, look, Jokic ain't there. You got to figure this out over the course of these 4 quarters. And it did, again, this road trip didn't start off well for him without Jokic in there, but the more he's kind of thrown into that fire, the more he's kind of have to work his way out of it. And I think he's sort of shooting his way out of this slump. And there's just more opportunity without Jokic on the court there. And even if there's some losses there in the middle, this could be bigger or better for them when you kind of go big picture going forward for them. Let's move on. The Hornets lost to the Nets, and they benched LaMelo Ball down the stretch. We'll tell you what it means and why they did it after this. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in rewarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my pick hits, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also offers Venmo, my favorite, for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your accounts this sports season. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday every Tuesday. Obviously, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. If you think Steph Curry is going to get more than 4 3-pointers next week, you think Anthony Edwards is going to go for more than 27 points, you think Dalton Knecht is going to go for 30+, cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this basketball season when you and your crew run your game on PrizePicks. So download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the PrizePicks app. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA, and you're going to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. Best way to support Locked On NBA Game Night, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's wrap up the rest of our games from the night. We're going to start in Brooklyn, where the Nets beat the Hornets in what ended up being a fun game in the end. Trendon Watford scored a couple of big buckets late. Who? What are we talking about? Going at Trey Mann, hitting him in the chin.
He guarded too.
Yeah. Nets win the game 116-115. The story coming out of this is not Trendon Watford, though. It's that LaMelo Ball was benched after picking up his 4th foul just about under 4 minutes left in this game. Never checked back in. Charles Lee, the Hornets head coach, said after the game that he went with Trey Mann because he was just a little bit more steady on both ends of the court. Tony, are you surprised that they benched LaMelo to close this game and then he never came back in? Even on the final play where they just needed a bucket, they had the last possession, they didn't even put LaMelo in on that play.
Yeah, it's interesting because he was not good tonight, right? He was 3 for 13 with 4 turnovers in this game. It was a close game. They need every possession to matter, and Trey Mann was better tonight. He was 4 for 6 from deep. He also had a lot of turnovers, but had more assists. He was just playing a better game. So the argument that he said is true. Trey Mann was playing better. I do wonder if there's an element of new coach-player crunch time relationship that has to be considered even on bad nights, right? Hey, Kenny Atkinson just stuck with Darius Garland in Boston, for example, right? That is relevant to this. I can't say that he made a bad decision based on what was happening in the game I was watching, but I do understand that it's not just so black and white of like, this guy's playing better, he should do it. So, yeah, I mean, they lost, so it'll be very easy to nitpick, right?
It is. And what's interesting about this is in the NBA, you just kind of go with your dudes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. You're 3 for 12, whatever you might, 4 fouls, whatever it might be. Like, he takes LaMelo Ball out with, again, it was like 3:40 left. He had his 4 fouls. And I'm thinking, okay, get him like maybe a minute just to make sure he doesn't pick up another foul. And then he ends up fouling out with 2 minutes to go. But the guy never checks back in. And it kind of became evident after a couple minutes. I'm like, oh, he's not going to play LaMelo the rest of the way because he was playing poorly. But again, coaches just usually play their guys, and LaMelo Ball has been really productive this year. And it is very surprising for him not to go with him. And by the way, he says, I went with Trey Mann instead of LaMelo Ball. You could play both of them. You're allowed to put 5 guys out there. Like, you can have both of them out there. And to me, this is sending some kind of message to LaMelo. Right before he got pulled out, not only did he pick up his 4th foul, but it was just a couple of ill-advised shots, airballing or just bricking shots. Just he wasn't playing well, but I think Charles Lee was more upset with the process than he was even like the shot going in or not going in. And I think maybe he was trying to send a message to Melo saying, like, just because you're the star doesn't mean your minutes even at the end of these crunch time games are guaranteed. And like, risky business for a new head coach with the established star in that town, but we'll see how it works out. Let's go to San Antonio, where we were supposed.
Hold. I cannot let you, gloss over a Cam Johnson 34-point game, but really the important one is I would never do this. But this guy just got clowned for a bunch of bricks and warm-ups in New York and then a terrible pass in transition. 10 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals for Ben Simmons on 5 for 8 shooting. That dude can still help sometimes. I wanted to say it. Go to San Antonio. I'm sorry.
In San Antonio, we were supposed to get Chet versus Wemby on TNT. Instead, we ended up getting like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Keldon Johnson versus Keldon Johnson, and a late comeback by the Thunder. OKC came back from 21 down to make it a single-digit game in the final 2 minutes, but it wasn't enough. Spurs get the 110-104 win. Chris Paul hurt his left hand in this game, so something to monitor going forward a little bit here. But the Spurs are hanging in there, 7-8 in the Western Conference. The Thunder continue to play super small without a center, starting Jalen Williams at the 5. And they're really pushing the limits of small ball, Tony. They took 53 three-point attempts in this game. They missed 37 of them, which is why they lost. They didn't necessarily lose because they were giving up a bunch of points in the paint. The Spurs shot 40+% from three-point range, and Oklahoma City couldn't bury one. And so that was kind of the game, despite the fact that San Antonio was out without Wemby, but they played Charles Bassey a lot. They played Zach Collins a lot. They stuck to their center lineups. But yeah, the Thunder pushing the limits of small ball. Jalen Williams at the 5. It's pretty crazy what they're doing.
What's been remarkable to me about OKC is they have Shai, and that team cannot get a foul at all. Entered the night 28th in the league in free throw rate, or free throws per game. Maybe their free throw rate might even be worse than that. Tonight they took 7. And Shai took 6 of them, right? Like, if you're going to be missing centers and have a massive disadvantage on the interior, you need to find other ways to get an advantage in the efficiency battle. One way would be taking 53 threes, which is part of why they didn't take any free throws. But 7 is like comically low. They're averaging 20 per game, and that's 28. Then they took 7. The Spurs took 19. I can't sit here and tell you I watched the entire game to say that, oh, they got gypped by this or that or that, whatever. And obviously, again, when you take 53 threes, you shouldn't have a lot of free throw attempts. But that they need to get that was their thing last year. They were this magical driving team. They need to refocus that a little bit to me to kind of scrape some of these points back because they got killed by Zach Collins and Charles Bassey.
Last game here, we're going to go to Los Angeles where the Lakers beat the Jazz 124-118. Rookie Dalton Knecht. Whoo! Made 5 3-pointers in the final 3.5 minutes of the third quarter. 6 if you include that he got fouled on one of them and then drained all 3 free throws. You know what, Tony? We count that around these parts. He made 6 3-pointers in the final 3.5 minutes of the third quarter to put this one away, even though the Jazz made it a little interesting there at the end. I don't know if I said the final score. It ended up being 124-118. Knecht started this game. D'Angelo Russell continues to come off the bench. There was no Rui Hachimura. So they start Knecht, Austin Reeves, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Cam Reddish. Thank you. But Knecht, he's become so important to this Lakers team. He ends up with 37 points in this game, obviously a career high for him. He is the only, really the only elite shooter outside of LeBron, I guess, at this point. He's really the only elite shooter on the Lakers roster. I don't know that he needs to start necessarily. I'm not sure that I'm there all the way, even though I could be, but he needs to play as many minutes as possible with LeBron James.
Really impressive foresight by Rob Pelinka to sign LeBron and trade for Anthony Davis in anticipation of his to-be draft pick of Dalton Knecht, because that trio fits very well together, right? I mean, if you got a guy who can movement shoot like Dalton Knecht as a rookie, and all the draft people the whole time are like, I know he's old, but how'd this guy fall to 17? And now already they're looking very right, because he can run fast and stop on a dime and shoot threes and make them. And like, I don't expect to do it every night, but that's exactly what the Lakers have needed for like the entire LeBron 80 era, right? It's remarkable,
right?
Davis was amazing again. Bron was great. I mean, they just have something that works now with him actually being a real player right away. It's remarkable. He was terrific.
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, you know, the formula around LeBron has been obvious for a very long time. You got to surround him with three-point shooting, and for whatever reason, the Lakers just have failed at doing that time and time again. And Dalton Knecht drops right into their lap on draft night. They take him. They're very excited. He's being coached by JJ Redick, and I thought he had a pretty hot start to the season, then cooled off, but then 37 points in this game, 27 points against the the skeleton Pelicans the other night. And so he's starting to get going here. And, you know, to me, there's different levels of three-point shooting, Tony. There's like the three-point shooters who kind of like D'Angelo Russell. They can make a couple in a row, then they'll heat check that third one, it'll brick, and then they just won't take another three for another quarter and a half. And then you have that other level of three-point shooter, which evidently Dalton Knecht occupies that tier, where you take that first one, you take that second one, you heat check the third one, and it goes in, and you say, you know what, I'm going to heat check a fourth one, and then that one goes in. And it's like this snowball effect, and you're just taking them from wherever you want on the court, and that's that level. I mean, right? I mean, there's not a lot of whole guys that can hit that, and from everything that we understand from Knecht, he's got that ability to do that. Again, obviously not every night, but repeatedly over the course of a season. And those are the kinds of things that the Lakers just haven't had. Knecht won them this game, right? With that third quarter flurry. And they just haven't had a lot of guys who could swing games like that over these last couple of years, despite how good LeBron and AD still are. So that's huge. By the way, point of information, the Lakers still undefeated in NBA Cup games, 9-0. So if it was just NBA Cup games,
we love the Cup.
It's a dynasty.
We love the Tuesday nights.
That wraps up Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, Odyssey, and wherever you get your podcasts.